So obviously Fantastic Four has been out for a while now, and people have definitely shared their thoughts, and we've even seen some dramatic changes in the box office. But I did make a video on this, and I gave my review and initial thoughts, but I wanted to make another one that's more comprehensive, where I dive deeper into some of the stuff I liked. I'll talk about some of those things and some more. I'll also share a lot of more theories because I've had time to kind of stir on everything and think about everything, and I think I have some very interesting theories on where they could take this, and I think it's very exciting because if you don't know, I'll spoil my review video. I really like this movie. I don't really understand, why it's dropped off so much in the box office, but I thought it was a really enjoyable time. Although I will say it probably is, partially due to the fact that this team isn't very popular, even though they deserve to be. I mean, they are Marvel's first family. I think they're criminally underrated, but again, I have a video for that, so I'm not going to dive into that too much more. So I guess I'll just get right into it. And the first thing I wanted to talk about was Reed. Pedro Pascal as Reed was something very controversial, something I was not personally on board for initially, especially with the whole he's not clean shaven. Although to me, that's looking back in hindsight, that's doesn't even matter. But overall, Pedro Pascal is in everything now, and he has kind of started to come under fire for some things, mainly his anxiety. But all that aside, him being cast in this is a great thing because brings a big name to this franchise, to these characters. And we've had big names before, but still, it's just nice to keep that kind of tradition going because, as I said before, this team deserves recognition and praise. And one of the things I wanted to talk about in more detail about his performance was how much I loved his version of Reed. Now, I haven't read every Fantastic Four comic book, but the general gist I know from the comics is that Reed is he's a complicated man. He's almost like a tortured man. He's almost like Thanos quotes in Infinity War, burdened with knowledge. That's kind of Reed, in my opinion, from my understanding of the character. He is a genius, and that's not always a great thing. He even has a conversation with his son in this movie, which I love, where he's like, most fathers want their sons to look and be exactly like them inside and out, but I'm broken. There's something broken inside of me. There's something wrong with me. There always has been. And I love that because that is Reed. He realizes there is something wrong with him. And there's multiple moments in this movie even where it shows, him and Sue's marriage and actually how it's supposed to be. Because in the original 2005 and 2007 movies, they have their faults, but it's not really like this. It's more so like just normal marriage faults. In this movie, it's a lot more deeper, in my opinion. It's like, Sue, it's just hard to describe, but Sue could tell her husband isn't always the most emotions first person. He is the one to suggest offering their baby up as bait. He even debated actually sacrificing their child, and she knows that. She knows him. So I love their dynamic, and I love that Reed understands the kind of person he is. And I think that can lead the way for a lot of fun scenes and conversations in movies like Avengers Doomsday and Avengers Secret Wars, because think about it, when everyone's together and they're coming up with a plan and they're all bickering, Reed is going to be that kind of voice of reason to bounce off of the more hopeful and more save everybody kind of people the Avengers are. Whether that Avengers team is led by Sam Wilson or Reed himself, either way, he's definitely going to mesh or not mesh very well with some of that main cast, if not most of them. And thinking about that gets me excited because that's the fun of these movies, is seeing how people interact and seeing how they kind of bounce off of one another. So I think that'll be a lot of fun. And it'll also be fun to see him interact with Tony Stark if we get that. Because, if Robert Downey Jr. is back as Doom, there's a possibility he's back as Iron Man. And seeing those two interact could be a lot of fun. It could be either really funny or really meaningful. Tony Stark could help Reed out and vice versa. Although I think Reed has a lot more to learn from Tony than Tony does from Reed. I love the the fact that Reed was like a mad scientist, though. You know, it's something that was kind of explored in the 2005 version, but this one is a lot more darker. And they have that line, that amazing line from the trailer that they unfortunately cut, where, you know, he talks about stretching the bounds of space, and they heard. Like, that is terrifying. I don't even know how else to put that. Like, it's chilling. So, you know, the fact that we're going to get more of this Reed, I'm very excited. Now, as I mentioned, Reed and Sue is, in my opinion, the heart of this movie. And her delivery of certain lines and the way she, you know, uses her performance, is she answered that in an interview, actually, how she used being a pregnant mother in real life in her performance, and how she used a mother's primal rage. And you could feel that. And a lot of people already made that comparison. For example, when she is, spoiler alert, pushing Galactus, you know, through the city, you could feel that it's like, people have likened it to a mom lifting a car off of her child. And that's perfect. That's literally exactly what I thought. And that's probably what she was going for, and I love it, because it's just, you just feel it in the movie. It's hard to explain, but it's one of those things, like, they don't have to tell you that she cares for her child, because she shows it in her performance, and I love that. And, you know, Vanessa Kirby has always been a great actress, and I'm glad that she's doing a very mainstream role like this, because other than Mission Impossible, I don't really remember seeing her in anything super mainstream, and she's great. She's great in this. And one of my favorite lines from her is, I forget how it goes exactly, but it's something like, you know, she's talking to Johnny when she's actively giving birth and being chased by the Silver Surfer while going through space. And, you know, she's like, she's trying to kill your nephew. She's trying to take your nephew. Kill her. And she just, like, the gravity that she delivers it with and the way she says it is just, like, it gave me chills. I was like, that is what I need right there. Like, I love that. Speaking of, you know, Johnny and Ben, I'm glad they didn't retread certain grounds with Ben. Specifically, his whole, like, not being happy with the way he looks. You know, they did hint at it in this movie with him looking at the TV and seeing his rock reflection after just seeing his human self, but they didn't do it too much, and I like that. Now, some people were upset about this because they said that was the most interesting part of Ben's character, but I disagree. I think the most interesting part of Ben's character is who he is as a friend, as a person, and as a protector, you know? In this entire movie, he is clearly has good relationships with everybody, and it's not forced. He has an awesome friendship with Johnny, which, by the way, you could hate me if you want, but Johnny and Ben's dynamic in this is leagues better than their dynamic in any other version of the Fantastic Four. They have an actual brotherly love, whereas in the 2005 and 7 versions, it kind of felt a little bit mean, a little bit more mean-spirited, and even the 2015 one, it felt, you know, very kind of mean. So this one was the perfect balance for me, where it's like, yeah, they mess with each other, they joke around, but deep down, or not even that deep down, you don't really have to dig that deep to know, you know, they actually care for each other and they would do anything to protect them. And that's Ben as a whole. Like, this whole movie, he's looking out for Reed, he's protecting Sue, he's obviously protecting their child. He's helping Sue as she's pushing Galactus by doing everything he can. I just think overall it's a really amazing turn on the character, because honestly before I looked at Ben as more of like a depressing character in this group of people, but now I look at him as, you know, pretty hopeful. I think people would want to be like him. You know, he's their, pun intended, rock. He's their literal rock for this entire team. He's what holds it together. I mean, Sue is the heart, but Ben is the strings that hold everyone together. And I love that, because he deserves his time in the spotlight. Now, speaking of Johnny, as I kind of touched on, Johnny, you know, is usually a ladies' man and kind of a jerk, which, like I touched on a little bit, maybe less so on the jerk side, but he still has those character traits in this movie. But he's also, you know, very smart. He has a lot of brains, and he deciphers an entire alien language. And they even poke fun at that, because, you know, they're like, he can't even grasp the English language. But either way, I loved how useful Johnny was in this, because I always hate it when they make characters like that just, you know, one-trick ponies or very one-dimensional. Whereas in this, Johnny was truly useful, and he was really smart. It kind of caught me off guard because, as I mentioned, I don't have much experience with him in the comics or any of them in the comics, but I do know Johnny is typically portrayed as, a bit dumb, especially in the Chris Evans version where he's literally just a bro with powers. um, so yeah, I thought this one was really fun because they struck the perfect balance for me and apparently for a lot of other people because, a lot of people were nervous when he was doing interviews saying they were going to focus less on the womanizer side, which I was also a bit worried about because I was like, well, do they understand the character? But, now I should be saying, did I understand the character? Because apparently not. So I'm really happy that they did that. So, no complaints as far as the team goes. The team as a whole, really solid and by far, in my opinion, the best versions of these characters that we've ever received. Now, moving on, I want to talk about them trapping Galactus and how he may return. Now, this could go literally anywhere, guys. It's kind of, impossible to say because Galactus is one of those characters, if you don't know, he is the same across the multiverse. There's only one Galactus. So every video game, every movie and TV show you've seen him in is the same Galactus. Now, going into this movie, I feel like everybody should have known they're not going to kill Galactus. And I've seen some people upset about the way they take care of him. But to be honest, how else do you take care of a primordial space god who's older than, the universe? It's kind of difficult. And no matter what you would have done with him, nobody would have been satisfied or happy. So, frankly, I think it's a great choice. It leaves the door open to continuing to use his character because I want more of his character. I know everybody else probably wants more of his character. Now, the question is, what future project will we get him in? I don't know. I go back and forth because I used to think, Galactus is going to be the next, Thanos. He's going to be a Thanos-level threat. But I don't know if they're going to do that because, like I said before, I mean, there's really no good way to, you can't really kill him as far as I know. Unless you're, a very powerful character in the universe. But like I said, that's kind of, I don't know, there's so many balls in the air there. So I think Galactus is a good person to have around, maybe on the back burner. As far as next projects go, it's really hard to say. I mean, he could be in an Avengers movie. Like I said, maybe he won't be as big a threat as Doom or Thanos, but he could be very well. I mean, they could just do that, and I'd be fine with that. I mean, I think Galactus is, even in one appearance, well, we don't count the other one from 2007, but even in this one appearance, he more than earned his place, in my opinion, to be a very threatening villain deserving of, an Avengers movie or two. So I think he could easily be the villain. Now, speaking of villains, Dr. Doom, biggest elephant in the room for this movie. I didn't really touch on it too much because I wanted to really dive into it in this video, but spoilers for this movie, obviously. Doom was missing from the Future Foundation World Leaders meeting, and obviously we know that because the Latveria flag was there, but no representative. So, what does that mean? That could mean a lot of things, and I've kind of touched on this already a little bit, but Doom in the end credits scene, there's so much implied, but nothing is said, and it's so intriguing to me because that's what I thought about this whole movie when I saw that Latharian flag and nobody behind it. I was like, well, what is this? Is Doom already hopping across the multiverse, plotting his plan? Is this even that same Doom that's going to be the villain of our Avengers movie? Because this Doom could very well be an ally to this team. He could be a friend. And that's what I thought when I saw the end credits, because if you don't know, obviously, Sue's reading to Franklin 4 years later. She goes to grab a different book. She turns the corner and she sees a hooded figure with Franklin touching his face, and his mask is off, and she has her invisible powers up. Now, I mentioned with the post-credit scene for Thunderbolts that Marvel does not do anything by accident, and they are very, very particular with what they put where. So, it's been confirmed that RDJ was on set for this scene as Doom, and he was filming that post-credit scene. Now, it's very interesting that they cut it where they cut it. They chose not to show his face, and he does not interact with Sue. So there's a lot that could be taken from this. For me, I think it can mean so many things. Like, he could be a friend. I mean, maybe Sue thinks it's somebody else, and then she sees who it is, and she lowers her powers. Maybe that's the other half of the scene that we're missing. Maybe that's why Franklin's not freaking out. He's like touching his face like he almost knows this person. So I am wondering if, with such an established team like this team is, if Doom is already established in their universe and he's a friend and an ally. He's actually not a villain. Because I believe there's times where that has happened, where, they actually get along with Doom, and Doom just kind of takes care of Latveria. And that's where I thought he was during this movie. I thought he was just kind of, holding his own in Latveria and taking care of his country. I don't think he would probably care to go to these, like, world leader meetings because it doesn't concern him or his country. So, that could be an option. It could be that Franklin is actually healing Doom's face, because if you don't know, in the comics, Doom is has a very misfigured face, and that could lead to them explaining how RDJ is cast. Maybe he's even manipulating his face to look like Iron Man so he can kind of fool the Avengers. Maybe he is a villain. There's so many like little roads we can go down, and as you can see, I mean, a Dr. Doom theory video would be a video in and of itself, but those are just some fun ones I've heard. Let me know what you guys think, though, because obviously Doom is so many possibilities, and he's such an important character to nail, because you don't want to piss Dr. Doom fans off. I mean, he is iconic for so many people, and he's beloved, so you definitely got to get that one right. So I was just happy to see him show up. I am very intrigued to see his future. And I don't really think it's as simple as, we think it is. I don't think she's just going to turn the corner and start blasting him. I think this Doom is honestly an ally, if you want my opinion. I don't think Robert Downey Jr.'s Dr. Doom is even the real Dr. Doom. I think he's a giant red herring. And I think, the real Doom will probably come through in the movie and just, like, punch a hole in his chest. And then, it'll be revealed that we actually have a different actor as Doom. Now, who would that be? I don't know. I mean, the possibility, like I said, with this kind of character, possibilities are literally endless, so do with that what you will. But that's just my opinion on the situation. Now, obviously, Dr. Doom will be the villain of the next two Avengers movies, but I want to talk about how the interactions with this team will go in the next Avengers movies. I mean, Feige said there will be a lot more people in the Baxter Building than we saw in this movie, which implies that they stay on their Earth, or at least, like, maybe go back to it at some point, which means, they may not be on that ship in the Thunderbolts post-credit scene, which a lot of people have also theorized. And it makes sense, and especially if you watch this movie, the ship looks completely different. The ship in the end of the Thunderbolts has a 4 on it with a circle. The ship in this movie, to my knowledge, does not. The ship in this movie also says United States of America. And that ship in the Thunderbolts does not. So, very key details. Now, could this make sense canonically? Like, could they just have changed the ship a little bit? Of course, yeah. But like I said, Marvel does not, do little slip-ups like that. And they don't really let stuff go unless there's a purpose. And I always thought it was weird when they showed that at the end of the Thunderbolts, because I'm like, wow, way to spoil your movie, and a lot of other people did too. But now we know that's probably a misdirect. That's probably, I mean, God knows what's on that ship. It could be Dr. Doom and Franklin Richards on that ship. It could be the 2005 Fantastic Four team on that ship. It could be somebody who's not even related to the Fantastic Four at all on that ship. So the possibilities are endless. But, I mean, the prospect of having, according to Feige at least, so many more characters in that Baxter Building has me so incredibly hyped, you have no idea. I mean, the character interactions, imagine this Fantastic Four team having a discussion with the new Avengers, or the new Avengers and the old Avengers, if they bring together different timelines and, they time travel or different multiverses. I mean, it can get crazy. Or throw in the X-Men. Like, how would Hugh Jackman's Wolverine interact with Pedro Pascal's Reed Richards? Probably not good. It probably would not go super smooth. And that's just like, this is what I'm talking about with these movies. This is what's so much fun. Like, I compared it to, being a kid and throwing all your toys out on the ground and just creating a story. And this is how I hope it is. I hope it's just like the craziest meetings and the craziest conversations you could hope for, because that's what's fun about these. I want to see Spider-Man finally interacting with X-Men on screen. I want to see him interacting with the Fantastic Four, with Johnny Storm. And I'm just really excited to see what this movie can give us in that degree. Now, obviously, I don't really know how the dialogue would exactly go, but I'm just saying, like, the different dynamics are definitely going to clash, and I think there's going to be a lot of arguments and a lot of fighting, but that makes for some fun watch, and I'm all here for it. I cannot wait, and that kind of brings me into the next thing, where it's like, who will he get along with? Probably people like, Spider-Man, like I mentioned, Black Panther, I would imagine, Captain America, whether it's Steve Rogers or Sam Wilson. I would imagine they'd get along with either one of those. Now, some people they'd fight with would probably be like, like I said, Hugh Jackman, Iron Man for sure. If they bring Robert Downey Jr.'s Tony Stark back, I don't see Iron Man getting along with them necessarily. I also think they'd probably go, butt heads with like Bruce Banner. If he's in his human form, I don't know if he would necessarily get along with Reed. So, obviously, there's a lot up in the air there. But the one thing we know for sure is that this team has been superheroes for a long time, which I found interesting because, according to my math in this movie, and I could be wrong, but the movie starts, they've been heroes for 4 years. Sue is pregnant, and she gives birth. So that takes us to about at least a year further. So about 5 years they've been heroes, and then by the post-credit scene, they're heroes for 4 years, when because there's a 4-year time jump. So that brings us to 9 years total, and this begs the question of, like, they've been a team for a long time by the time the Avengers roll around. So honestly, they're going to have a lot of opinions to say. They're going to have a lot of experience, a lot of I guess just like advice that should be heard in this movie, because a lot of people were concerned about how new this team was going into Avengers. They're like, why would anybody care? But now I'd argue that's not an issue at all, because number one, people love this team. Number two, they're clearly experienced. They know how to work as a team dynamic. So it's pretty awesome. Now, going back to Doom, I want to talk about something I forgot to mention earlier, which was the mask. I mentioned this a little bit in my review, I think, but this mask has got me stumped because it looks either identical to the Mark I Iron Man mask, but maybe like a little bit slimmed down, or it looks identical to the Dr. Doom mask Robert Downey Jr. had at Comic-Con when he was revealed as Doom. And this means so many things. I mean, this could mean so many things. For example, if it's an Iron Man mask, that right there implicates everything we've been theorizing about this being a Tony Stark variant, which would piss a lot of people off. And honestly, I don't know if I want that either. But I think they know that, and I don't think they're going to go that route. I also wonder if this could be like a cross between the two, and they're just doing it to kind of, stump some people. Like I said, I don't even know if this is for sure our main Dr. Doom villain version that we're going to get. This could be an ally version of Dr. Doom, which could be a route they should go if they want to do it as a Tony Stark variant. If they want to make it like a Tony Stark variant, you should probably just make him an ally and then use the real Dr. Doom as the villain, and then obviously make him Victor Von Doom. Now, Franklin, as I said, didn't look scared, so this brings a lot of questions in the Doom area, but as I kind of mentioned, I already went over that. So this brings me to my next point with Dr. Doom, which is they recently revealed after this movie came out that Robert Downey Jr. is in talks to play Doom in the future beyond Secret Wars. Now, this could go so many places. I mean, this could either be Marvel putting out false information to leakers to kind of throw them off the scent, or this could be real. And if it's real, this could mean, number one, Dr. Doom obviously lives and survives Secret Wars somehow, which would be a first because obviously Thanos was killed, Ultron was killed, and Loki was presumably, just locked up and eventually killed. But either way, the Avengers villains never really stick around. So it'd be interesting to see a villain, especially one as big as Doom, stick around. Although, in my opinion, it is a necessity. You cannot. It's like Galactus. You cannot introduce a villain like that, give them one or two, even two movies, and then just kill them off permanently. You literally cannot. That is a giant mistake, and one Marvel cannot afford to make, especially because they are rebuilding. And Secret Wars is supposed to be a big reset for the MCU. I made a video talking about all that. So if they are planning on truly continuing with RDJ as Dr.Doom, that reset can play a role. Maybe the heroes do win, but they don't just necessarily kill Doom. Maybe they reset the timeline and, they make Doom a friend. Like I said, maybe there's so many things you could do with a timeline reset that it's literally, it hurts my brain to even think about in great detail. But I think that's some of the routes they can go. Although I don't think some people would be very happy with seeing RDJ return as Doom, because they're not very happy with him being cast in the first place. So this is kind of a slippery slope, and honestly, it's a lose-lose situation when you cast a character as big as this. So it's just kind of I don't know. It's fun to theorize about, but it's also not fun when some people get in the conversation, because, it gets messy. People get very passionate, which I understand. And if you guys want to get passionate in the comments below, feel free, Let me know if I'm wrong, let me know I'm stupid, but try to keep it a little bit respectful with each other, and we could at least have some fun talking about it, because this movie was a lot of fun, and I think it's a great sign for Marvel, having Thunderbolts and this, and honestly, even Captain America. Captain America was just fine, but it wasn't horrible. So I think it's awesome having our movies back the way we want them, and obviously with the reveal of the new Spider-Man suit, that's looking awesome too. So it's just really, honestly, a great time. I'm very excited to be able to experience this. I said that when Infinity War and Endgame were coming out, like, I feel like this is the Star Wars of my generation. So I'm really excited to see where they take this, and I have even more faith now after seeing these last two movies. So I hope you guys do as well, because I think it's going to be a lot of fun. Hopefully you liked what I had to say about, some of my theories on this movie. I can only go so in depth, obviously, because I'm not a screenwriter. I'm not a screenplay writer, and I don't make movies. So I'm just giving my general bare bones thoughts. If you don't know, my wife is probably very thankful for you guys for listening to me have my spiels, because as much as she tells me she loves to hear me talk about this stuff, I do kind of feel bad, because I go on these rants, and very unprompted most times, on her. So I appreciate you guys sticking around and listening to what I have to say, because I'm very passionate about this stuff, and I hope that can come through in the videos. And I hope you guys can, have some fun just hearing what I have to say. As I mentioned before, I wanted this channel and these videos to kind of just be like a little community and a little, like, hangout. I've always loved talking with people in comic book shops or even in movie theaters about the stuff I love, and that's kind of how I wanted this channel to feel. So if you feel like it is, let me know down below. If not, please let me know what I could do better, because I want to do better. I want to make this that. So yeah, that's about it for today. I appreciate you sticking around and listening, and until next time, I will see you guys later.